Sorry, Tiff.
What's up, y'all? We are back with more of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. I'm Justin Michael. I'm known as J Mike. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, Eric Lacroix here. AJ's here. We're going down memory lane a little bit. The Avs moved to Denver 30 years ago. We're going to talk about that. Eric's going to reflect back on what he remembers about it all. We'll talk about Denver finally breaking through, winning a championship, all of that fun stuff. After that, we'll get into the recently released 30-year Avalanche logo, the anniversary logo. I think AJ's got some intense opinions on it. I know how much he loves to talk about logos. We're gonna do a whole second segment of the show on it. How's everybody doing, man? How you doing, Biggie?
I'm doing awesome. I love going down memory lane. It's one of my favorite things to do. Um, Hopefully you guys are awesome, but I'm kicking today. I'm kicking. I feel good. Feel good.
How's life for you on the East Coast, AJ?
It's hot. It's hot. The
Is it
the heat,
humid
the
out there
humidity
too?
returned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very humid. It sucks. So I'm hiding inside, and I'm super excited to talk about logos. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
I'm not built for that. I'm not built for the humidity. I'm too soft for it. I have no qualms admitting that. I've been living in a dry desert and a drought for my entire life, and that's where I shall reside for hopefully the rest of it. Let's just get right into it. Obviously, there's a lot of ways we could take this in terms of looking back on the history, but this was your idea, Eric. So we'll start with you. 30 years ago, they come from Quebec to Denver, breakthrough, win a championship. Just what kind of stands out the most to you when you look back on that period of life?
Well, what goes through my mind is very simple. It's more through the eyes of my father and my mother probably because I was uh I was playing in the NHL at that time. So I was already playing with the LA Kings. I was living in Los Angeles, and my parents had sold the home that we grew up on, like you know grew up in. Sorry, a few years before, and so they had just kind of. We're from Montreal, right? So people don't understand where Montreal is. It's like a few hours away, or 2 hours, 2.5 hours away from Quebec City. So then my parents obviously he got the job with the Nordiques, and so they rented in Quebec City. You know what I mean? Just because he got the job. It was like right before the draft, and so they just kind of went to New York City and rented a place for a year and try to figure things out. What were they going to do and where are they going to live? Next thing you know, it's that one year. It's the lockout year. It's a weird year, and they don't start till January, which was a weird times in the National Hockey League. They have a very successful year, the Nordiques, that year. They start 10-0. People are just starting to see what they're all about, and they end up losing in the first round to the Rangers, but no one really, made anything of it. I was talking to Footy and guys like that back then. There was Ricci and you know uh, Joe, but some guys were even like spending more time there in the off season. Not the whole off season, but they were just kind of going at business as usual. Then all of a sudden there was rumors that the team might be moving. But again, it's Quebec, it's Canada, it's Montreal. There's always rumors about hockey, and next thing you know, the team is sold. And I think it was like early August, if we remember, right? You know what I mean? Again, sorry, that's not true. The team was sold. It's right before the draft, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Oh my God!" And then they don't know what's going to happen. That's the Mark Denny draft, right, with the NHL logo on the jersey and the craziness of all that. And and all of a sudden
The
they have an
Colorado
emergency.
whatevers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have an emergency meeting, and who's going to Denver, who's not going. Like, how does this work, right? And that was a crazy summer. That's what I'm saying through my dad's eyes. Um, I think they got on a bus or on a flight, and they brought the players and their wives and significant others, and I want to say it was like late July or whatever it was, and then they kind of made their way there like early August, and for people who remember, there was IHL hockey in McNichols Arena, the Grizzlies, which were awesome, and they had just won the championship, and now they were being kicked out when you think about it towards Salt Lake, and then all of a sudden they weren't too happy somewhere somehow, and so then the Avalanche come in, and again the Nuggets are the old McNichols Arena, and then the Grizzlies did not leave till I want to say late August. So they had like a couple closets down the hall there at McNichols. They were using like boxes as tables, and Pierre came from New York, from New York, from Quebec. Francois Giguère, which was assistant GM at the time, came. Jean Martineau, that we all know on the PR side of things, came. Matt Sokolowski, that's still there on the equipment, sorry, on the medical side of things, came. Um, and that was pretty much it. That's who came from the Nordiques, I mean, and so they had to hire new staff, and that's when, and again, of course, the coaches came, but I'm talking about like from the front office, what I mean? So they came in, and it's a funny story, and AJ, Charlotte, and she was working for the Nuggets at the time, and she waved down the hall at my dad, and whoever came and introduced herself and said, "Hey, I'm a hockey lady. Ron, my husband played in the NHL. Obviously, works at DU, and you know." And then Pierre was like, "All right, I think we have to talk to the Nuggets because this is our first hire. We don't want to. We're going to steal her from down the hall there." So Charlotte moved their stuff down to the cart boxes down there to the Avalanche side of things. And again, they didn't have a name, didn't have anything. And like I said, guys came in, and there was a little press conference maybe early August, and that's well documented. The guys were trying to get in the restaurant, and they couldn't get in anywhere. And they were pushing Joe to the front of the line. Joe, just say you're Joe Sakic. And they're like, great, hour wait at Cheesecake Factory. They're like, Joe Sakic, you have an hour wait as well, right? No one knew who anybody was. It was absolute mayhem. And I think it's funny because equipment, it was such a mess. New colors, right? The Nordiques were Nordique blue, right? As we know, maybe we're going to see get a little bit of the third jersey, and then all of a sudden they came in. Everything was a mess. They had to hire staff. They hired like medical staff. Pat Carnes came in, and as you know, a friend of the show, been on the show, came in and built an incredible staff of doctors, and all the above on that side of things. Rob McLean got hired, Redzi. He got hired on the equipment side of things, and then
What was the excitement level like at the time? Like, surprising that it was chaotic. I mean, you've got to. They don't even know what the team name's going to be. As you've already pointed out, there's a million different small things you would never even think of that have to come together. But like, you're leaving Canada and you're coming to a place that that the Broncos are well established. The
yeah.
Rockies had been there for a couple of years, but like the Nuggets had never really done much other than a small stretch here and there. I don't know if Denver was viewed quite at the level it is today in terms of like being a great sports city. What did your dad think about that? Was it exciting to come to Colorado, or was it just like, I have no idea what we're getting into here?
No, it was exciting, and I think they were living at the Westin down the street. Like he was just going to the office. He had no idea on McNichols. They didn't know it was the old Brooklands down the old parking lot there back then. Now it's in front of Ball Arena, and then he had grilled cheese there, I think, for 60 days straight. And until he figured out, like, is there other restaurants here? And they really put it in overdrive. They did an unbelievable job from Jean to Francois to Pierre to Charlotte, and to put everything together. And you got to remember, you're running, negotiations on contracts and all that stuff through all this stuff, getting ready for a regular off season. And I remember he was worn out. He said it was absolutely crazy. But they were excited. And I think from day one for him it was important to establish the identity there and the culture of the franchise and whatever the logo and the name was going to be, it had to be done right away. He was a big culture guy. And I think they nailed it. They nailed it. Everybody in the, from Adrenaline that did the logo and the uniforms and the company, and it was supposed to be called something else, right? The Extreme or something, whatever. I'm not too sure.
Rocky Mountain
And
Extreme.
yeah, yeah, and then it was they got put together. You see a lot of pictures from the first game against Detroit that I do believe Val scores the overtime, right? Not overtime, but game-winning goal, Valerie Kaminsky. But they have their white uniforms, which back then was your home uniforms, and they have black helmets. And the reason for that is because they didn't have all their orders in for everything got messed up. They didn't have any white helmets, and that's the reason they hadn't come in yet. So they had to play, I think, one or two games with the black helmets and the white jerseys, and those are the original pictures you see. And it's funny because the original ticket, if we ever could get our hands on that one, the original ticket to the game, and there's a goalie on the front of the ticket back then, the old days of the tickets, and it's so easily listen. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that it's Patrick Waugh on the ticket. But even though it's a cartoon character or whatever, it's Patrick Waugh. And it's so funny because then Waugh gets traded there in December or whatever it was. But it's so funny, like how it just kind of worked out. So it was crazy. They had a blast doing it. I think they nailed it. And then again, of course, you win the Stanley Cup. You know what more you want to you want to establish a culture and then a love affair with the city. Winning cures everything, and I think that was my father and that group that set foot in Denver. Those guys that laid it out on the line there for everything from players to management to staff. These guys deserve a lot of credit for what the Colorado Avalanche are today. I came in that next summer and we were paving the way still. You know what I mean? I remember going to DU for practice. AJ knows those stories. We didn't have a practice rink. We would drive. We'd go to McNichols, get dressed, drive full gear, accept skates in our cars. I would drive four guys in there, and we got pulled over on I-25, and Patty was on the right seat, Mike Keen's in the back. The guy's like license and registration, not good. And but they had no idea. They didn't know what hockey was really. They had no idea. So it was a fun time, and I'll tell you one thing: to start from scratch, and now it's crazy. It's 30 years down the road. It's absolutely nuts. And again, those guys and ladies and whoever was part of this deserve a lot of credit because they really nailed it from the day one.
AJ, what do you remember from that time period, just as a sports fan and a hockey fan? And what were your opinions, on Colorado getting an NHL team?
I didn't know anything about it. I was a baseball guy. Um, my first my first ever hockey game that I ever went to was their first game against Detroit, where they won 3-2. And then I remember when Patrick Waugh got traded to the Avs, my third grade teacher that day, we did a whole class on how to say his name correctly and talking about different pronunciations, which I didn't have proper appreciation for at the time. Now I look back on it and I'm like, you go, Mrs. Shawcross, you go. Uh, but I do not I had no thoughts about it whatsoever when they got a team. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna go to watch a bunch of Rockies games.
So what was your
Like that was
reaction
my
then,
thing.
game one? I mean, you see him beat Detroit. Like, did you fall in love with the sport immediately, or was it more of a
Yes.
slow burn? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. That's ice. How are they doing this? Those are knives on their feet. This is super cool. It was fast. It was fun. The crowd just felt very different from because I had my family had Bronco season tickets and Rocky season tickets, and the Avalanche crowd felt completely different from those crowds. And I was young. I'm like 8 years old or something. But even just the energy of when the Avalanche scored a goal and just being so excited and not really fully knowing what was going on, um, really I mean it was the easiest thing to fall in love with in my entire life. It was like that. Like it just nope, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do. And I went and my dad took me and I bought rollerblades like the next day and started playing roller hockey and then transitioned to ice and then moved to Texas where they don't like ice at all.
I want to ask you guys a little bit more about this. Obviously, I'm on the younger side of things. I was born in '95, so I didn't get to experience the Avs hysteria when it first started, but the Avs winning the cup in '01, that's my first significant sports memory. It was on my 6th birthday. I remember watching it with my dad. Denver at that point, I would say, was a hockey town, had fallen in love with the sport. So I want to talk about that. I want to ask your thoughts, AJ, on is there a more is there a better example of a team relocating in terms of how it all played out than the Nordiques to the Avalanche in any sport? I'm not sure there's a more successful example of relocation and it playing out. But real quick, we do have to shout out a couple of our partners. So let me do that, and then we'll keep this rolling. Cake Mortgage is the business owner's home mortgage partner. What they do is they specialize in non-QM loans. If you're a regular employee of a company, you get a W-2, your income shows on your tax return. It's all really clear cut. It's a simple process when you go to try and do things like refinance, like to get a home loan, a business loan. If you're somebody who's a creative professional, a tech entrepreneur, any type of freelancer, really, it can be a little bit more challenging to have that proof of income. Lenders especially don't like getting wonky when there's a lot of paperwork. They just want what's going to be cookie cutter and easy. Kate can get business owners approved by validating, though, your cash flow through bank statements, certified profit and loss statements, or your business tax returns. It's great for anybody who's a freelancer, a tech entrepreneur, a contractor of any sort. Head to the link in the show description to get started. Cake Mortgage Corporation, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1734623. Licensed in Colorado by the Division of Real Estate. Terms and conditions do apply. I also want to talk to you about some good old Rocky Mountain water. Of course, I'm talking about Coors Light, made right here in the gorgeous state of Colorado. Coors Light encourages you to never lose your chill. Life's going to test you. Getting worked up rarely solves anything. I think we as sports fans can really relate to that one. You know, it's what's worse than losing a game, and then I don't know, throwing a fit and like punching a wall in your living room or something dumb like that. It's not productive, doesn't help anything. It's all about how you deal with the little curveballs life's going to throw your way. When you're chilling, when you're in that right state of mind, put your feet up, put some hockey on, crack open an ice cold Coors Light when the mountains turn blue. It's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smooth finish. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. Visit CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. All right, kind of like going back to what we were just talking about there, and AJ, you know, being somebody who's a kid who didn't initially grow up with the hockey team and then falling in love with the Avalanche and becoming a hockey guy. How long do you think it took Denver to like fully catch Avs fever, guys? Like obviously when you win the championship, that's going to be the icing on the cake. But I mean, the Broncos hadn't won a Super Bowl at that point. Like they delivered Denver its first major pro sports championship. It's been pointed out to me that there was some like smaller league stuff in the 80s that you can count if you choose to, but I'm not going to. So sorry if that offends anybody. But like how quickly did it catch on in Colorado, and like how quickly was this a thing? Like, oh, we're a hockey community now. Either of you.
Um, yeah, I'll jump on. Like I got to be honest with you. I know because again, I came in that next summer. But the guys took pride in making sure that they were known in town. You got to remember, they came from Quebec City, where and Footy was telling me that, like, and Mike Ricci, and they would go to restaurants, and like it was like, oh my God, the red carpet, and they were legends. You know what I mean? It was crazy. And then they get to a place where, again, hockey's not really known. That's not throwing a knock on Denver. It really wasn't. It was Bronco country. The Rockies had just started right a couple years before, which was doing awesome at the gate and the old Mile High Stadium, and then obviously Coors Field was built. But it was. I think the guys took pride when they won, and they were pumped because now all of a sudden people were like, "Oh wow, like this is the love affair, right?" You know what I mean? And then, oh, the Broncos have never won. I'm not gonna lie to you, like that was like, you know what I mean, like. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we've won. You know what I mean? So the guys kind of took pride in that. I know my dad did. You know, my dad left a very nice business, you know, the agency business, and you know, for one reason where you know a lot of people are saying, "What is wrong with you? Why are you doing that?" And he goes, "I want to win the Stanley Cup. I just do." And my clients have won it. I see the rush. I see the thrill. I want to win it for myself, meaning obviously you're part of a team, but I want to be part of a team that wins it. And that was his driving force, and he wasn't going to be stopped at nothing. So I think they win it right away. It's a love affair. And the city becomes not just a Bronco or Rockies or whatever it is. And again, you got to remember the Nuggets were hitting a little bit of a rough patch there. They weren't doing too well. You know
The
what I
late
mean? At that
90s were
time,
not fun to be a
yeah,
basketball fan.
not very good. Not no, but not very good. And again, God rest him, I love Chopper and guys like that. But you know, it was kind of a not their era. It was not their time. And we took over McNichols, and we loved it. Guys loved it. It was fun to be, like I said, building something from scratch. But I think what it does is the regular. I'm going to use my father-in-law. God rest his soul. He's not with us anymore. But you know, he was a season ticket holder since day one. You know what I mean? And the Avalanche win in the first year, and now all of a sudden he's like knows it all, right? You know, I can say that about him because we had that conversation together back then, and all of a sudden he's like, you know. He's the man. You know what I mean? He's that fan, knows everything, and it was so funny because a couple years later, I AJ's gonna like that. Like a couple years later, I'm not playing for the Rangers, and I was like, you know what? That's it. You know what I mean? Like I know you won the cup in '96 with Avalanche and like new fan, and it's not that easy. It's not that easy out there. So I dressed in full gear at Christmas, just him and I at the old practice facility for the Rangers, and I got him all fully dressed. I put him a stick. He was a righty, and I put 10 pucks in that center ice, fresh ice. I said, I'll give you $100 for every puck you put in the net, untouched. He went 0 for 10. And I was like, you know what? I told you it's not that easy. So I always kind of had fun with him about that kind of stuff. But what it did is, again, people thought, again, it's normal. And again, I'm not bashing Denver fans. I'm saying right away, they've been awesome. They're a reason why this franchise is healthy, and because they've been showing up for so many years. But right away, it's not normal to win. You ask the people of Quebec City that, they still haven't recovered. You know what I mean? And that's so sad. And then all of a sudden, Denver hockey
How hard
fans,
was
the
that on
first year,
Quebec? Like to
crazy.
watch
It's
that?
so
Like,
hard.
yeah.
Oh, so hard to this day. I'm telling you, even to my father towards the end of his, obviously being alive, like a couple times, I remember going back to Quebec and Montreal with him, and people were mad, like it was him that moved the team or whatever. Like they look at you at the hamburger stand and they're like, they're so mad. You know what I mean? That you just kind of, what I mean? You deserted the city, and it's hard, and it's hard to win that trophy. We all know that. We all live it as fans, as media, as players, as management. And I think, as fans, they got, you know, I don't know what the word is, but wow, they got spoiled with a championship right away. You know what I mean? And then you expect it every year, right? Because it's like, oh, you got to do it every year. It's not that easy. You know what I mean? And I think we lose track, we lose, focus of that. But I'll tell you one thing, it's been great. And you're talking about three and an average of once every 10 years, right? 3 for 30, right? So, wow, there's a lot of franchises, not going to name names, that would be looking at this and say, wow, that'd be great if we could do that too.
Minnesota. I'll name a few. Ottawa. Let's take some shots. Let's create some enemies.
Buffalo.
Dallas.
Buffalo just trying to make the playoffs, man, let alone win the Stanley Cup. I mean, come on.
But that was
I
the
never really thought
Northeast.
about that element,
Some
though, of like
people don't realize how bad it was. The
Yeah.
losing. It was so bad, the losing in Quebec. And then they go to Denver. Whoop, it stopped.
It'd be like if the Rockies relocated and all of a sudden, the Oklahoma
Yes.
City, whatever they call themselves, went on to win like 3 World Series. It'd be hard. It'd be weird after watching all of that losing and then having your heart. I mean, it's more than just a game to those of us that are like truly all encompassed by this. And I don't know. I'm kind of glad that I didn't have to think about it like that as a kid. I think if a team moved here, like with me as an adult and everything I know about sports and the process, I wouldn't apologize for it. Like, what are you supposed to do? Are Thunder fans supposed to apologize to Seattle? It's not their fault, but it is a weird element in all of this of like kind of stealing something that another city loves and us just being like, oh, here's our trophies. Sucks to be you. Sorry, Quebec.
That's exactly how I feel about it. That sucks. Life, luck
It's
is
not fair. It
entirely
is what it is.
relative. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like we understand that we are lucky because we have Quebec as our reference point of what it is to be unlucky. Otherwise, we're just out here living, not understanding. So, and yes, the losing in Quebec got bad. They had a 3-year stretch where they won 38 games across 3 seasons. All right. For reference, the Avs have recently the Avalanche have only won fewer than 38 games one time in the last decade. And that was 16-17. So even like their not good years were significantly better than what it was like in Quebec for a little while.
Are you saying 38
It was
total wins over 3 seasons or an
Yes.
average of 38?
yes.
Oh, God.
No.
That's even
No,
worse than I thought.
38
total.
total wins. Yeah.
Buddy, it was brutal.
240
It
games.
was
They won
brutal.
38 out of 240 games. They won.
They were
Yeah.
tough years. It was bad. Hey, guys, when I tell you it was bad, and I know I'm going to add some to it too, because as fans, like I said, they took it hard, and I get it. I sympathize with them. I really do. But one of my great buddies, I'm not going to say a name, but he was part of that franchise for so many years, and he was actually their captain as well for so many years. And obviously made the move to Denver, with the team, but got traded that year, to a different team. And I remember being in the locker room in Florida when Yui Krupp scored that infamous goal there in overtime, and my phone rang in my pocket, and it was him. And he was absolute crying, like married with kids, crying like a little baby, and just so like emotional, like I can't believe I'm not there. I can't believe I'm not there. You know what I mean? And it was like, and that's a player perspective, but fans, as we all know, they sometimes carry it more than players, right? The emotions. And I'll tell you one thing, it was so hard it was gut wrenching, to see for some players that had been there, obviously some fans, some office members that didn't come. I said earlier, not many people came from the front office. So there was a lot of bitterness for years. And I still think to this day that hasn't gone away. You know what I mean? And I'm sure some figures were pointed, and at the end of the day, sometimes life, things happen, and change is made, and they made it. The ownership decided to sell the team and move on, and obviously, Comsat, Charlie Lyons, are the ones that benefited from that, but and then moved on, obviously, to the Cronkies, but. Yeah, it was crazy times. It was crazy times, and but it means a lot looking back at it because it's kind of fun now. You had Johnny Lyles there with the alumni last week, right? Like now we're gonna get an alumni game coming up. It's funny because there's a history there. You know what I mean? There was no history. It was so weird the first couple years because it was like, what do you mean? Like there's no, you know what I mean? There didn't exist. So there was no history. There was no alumni. There's no nothing. Then all of a sudden, whoop, a couple guys started to make their, after their careers, Denver, their home. And, then all of a sudden you're building on something. You're building on a culture, a legacy. And I think, like I said, the fans have been first and foremost at the forefront of that. And, you know, it's a great sports town. We all know that. We all know we make fun of the Rockies and everything, but when the Rockies are doing good, they're there and people are there, and then Broncos and the Rapids. I mean, obviously the new soccer team coming in, uh, and the Nuggets. I mean, how amazing is that? For me, it's a big turnaround. You got to remember, I moved to this town, and the Nuggets were, you know, they kept telling me about the Doug Moe years and all those years back then because I was really good friends with Chopper Travaglini, and then but that time it wasn't very good. You know what I mean? So I couldn't really see it, but now you see it. The Nuggets are, at the
It's like
top
me
again.
trying to tell
Like
CSU students college football actually legitimately used to be sick in this state, and both teams were top 25 programs, and like it was
yeah,
not unnormal to pull 80,000 for that matchup, and they look at me like
I
I'm
know,
speaking Chinese.
I know, I know. It's crazy. So
We'll
fun
keep this
times.
rolling. We'll get into the logo talk, all of that fun stuff. Let me shout out a couple of our awesome partners, and then we'll keep this rolling. Trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota's built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. What makes them so perfect is they've got a little bit of something for everybody. They've got options if you want to be deep in the mountains, you want, that four-wheel drive capability, how you want to go off-roading, all that. They've got something for you. Maybe you're just cruising around town though. You don't need all of that extra baggage. Toyota's got you good there, and Cap Hill as well. They've even got some models that are great at it all. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there's a truck that's just right for you. Check out the Tacoma. Check out the Land Cruiser. They've got 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the 4Runner, and they offer more low and zero-emission vehicles combined than any other automaker, allowing customers to ride in style while also reducing their carbon footprint. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you: AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe, and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Grove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood, and the official vehicle of DNVR. Let's go places, Toyota, baby. All right, if you are heading out on a summer road trip, it's about the end of that season. I know school's picking back up and whatnot, but order at raisingcanes.com or on the Canes mobile app to satisfy your chicken finger fix in a snap. There's nothing like being on the road. The kids are crying, they're hungry. Can we just get that order so that when we pull up to the drive-thru, it's ready to go? We don't have to do the whole song and dance trying to, speak to the people in the intercom over the kids throwing a fit. It's just a whole process. Make it so much smoother. At Raising Cane's, every chicken finger is hand battered and cooked to order. Every crinkle cut fry is crispy and perfectly salted. Don't forget about that extra buttery Texas toast. Get your order today at Cane's and keep the road trip going. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. All right, we've got 30 years of history now, as Eric mentioned before we went into the break there. As somebody who is, on the beat reporter side of things and has to go through the stats and whatnot, I will make a case that we're to the point now where maybe we separate the Nordiques and Avalanche history a little bit. I get a little bit annoyed when it's like most goals in franchise history, and then it's like some dude from 1982. I don't know. At this point, 3 decades in, kind of feels like they could be their own entities. Maybe that's me, being ignorant and not appreciating the history, but it just feels weird. Like if I was a Tennessee Titans fan, can I really be bragging about what Warren Moon did with the Oilers? Like, or if you're, an OKC fan, are you going to rock a Gary Payton jersey? He refuses to let them retire his number because he never played in Oklahoma City, and he's trying to do right by the city that he played in. So before we talk about the logos, I did kind of want to get your guys' perspective on that. Just, has there been a more successful relocation example in the NHL or abroad? I mean, obviously it hasn't been enough time yet to dictate, the Arizona situation, if that's going to be a success or not. I guess Atlanta to Winnipeg is a success, but not to the same, extent of like the Avalanche. What are your thoughts on that, AJ?
In the NHL, the only other one, ironically, is Colorado to New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah.
Yeah. Which is why another reason why like I wasn't alive for that, so it's not like something personal to me. But I'm also like, hey, sorry, Quebec City, like we had a team taken from us, and this sort of feels a little bit like karmic balancing. I know that they are different situations because that's kind of a wild story how the Rockies left and became the Devils, but you know, so I think in the NHL, those are the two most successful relocations that I could think of. The most successful relocation I think in sports is the Lakers going from Minneapolis to Los Angeles, and then winning 17 titles, 18 titles, something like that, over the course of like 40 years. So that's tough to top. We're looking at 3-30, going, yeah. They did better than that, and
There were also like 8 teams in the league for a while, to be fair.
yeah, it was easier to win a title. Like, since the league has expanded a little bit, they've still won a couple, and they had, the Shaq Kobe dynasty was pretty cool. But yeah, I would say that uh, that's probably the most successful relocation. I guess both of the Giants and Dodgers moving out to California have been pretty successful. Well, the Dodgers certainly uh, over the last 10 years. Before that, not so much. But yeah, those are pretty good. Yeah, the Ravens going from Cleveland.
That's true. I
which,
forget that the Ravens are technically the Browns, and then the Browns came back, which is another stupid ordeal in sports history.
Yeah,
but
and the Colts were the Colts in a different city. Like, those are this is a great example as to why teams should leave their history there.
And change names, like as the great Zinger in the Toyota chat, LA famous for their lakes. Like it's kind of like the Jazz being in Utah. There's not a less jazzy city in America than Salt Lake City, Utah. Doesn't make any sense. I guess the Nordiques technically would have been fine, but it would have been weird if they came to Colorado and had a French Canadian name. Like, I just imagine like my grandpa old Velton, the Nordiques, like what? Like, it just would not have would not have gone over well, and they nailed the branding, as Eric pointed out.
What the hell is a Nordique? Would have been the question
what is
had they kept the name.
I don't even know what it is. Like, it's someone from the north, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, because Quebec is kind of far up north. There's one more team too that we tend to forget, then our chat doesn't like them. We don't like them because of this past spring, though. But you have to acknowledge a little bit Minnesota North Stars, going to Dallas. You know what I mean?
True.
That's
I do forget.
they win the cup. Yeah, they win the cup like, whatever, 5 years after. But still, like, obviously the North Stars had a little bit of a magical run. I want to say 91, right? Made it to the finals, lose to Pittsburgh, and then, you know, obviously they win it in 99, but I want to say, what, I don't remember, was that my first year in the league, whatever, 94, they went to
It's a
How did
Dallas.
successful
Minnesota
organization, I'm
lose an
sure.
NHL team? Like, how was there ever a period in which there was not a professional hockey team in Minnesota? Like, that just doesn't even compute to me, how that whole
For
process would have
years,
played out.
yeah.
Scumbag owner,
It
man.
went away. Yeah, it went away, and then I remember we used to play neutral site preseason games. Man, you're talking about late '90s, and I remember going to Minneapolis there, the Target Center. Is that the Target Center? That's Minneapolis. Yeah, yeah. We got a couple like preseason games, like, and then all of a sudden, was it '99 or 2000? The Wild came back, right? Expansion. So it was crazy, yeah, because for me, my majority of my NHL career, Minnesota wasn't. It only came in at the end, and it was more like Dallas that became whatever. The Minnesota North Stars were the Dallas Stars, and Mike Modano and guys like that. They started their careers in Minnesota. It's crazy when you think about it. And then the Wild come
It just
back
feels
as
like
not
if there
even a
wasn't an
franchise.
NFL
It's
team in
weird.
Texas or something like that, it just optically doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It never made
Yeah.
sense. It never made sense. No
Scumbag
NHL
owners,
hockey
no?
in Minnesota.
Yeah.
For the record, Nordiques is the French plural for Northerners or Northmen.
Yeah, so it
that's what I
really
So
was
it
would have
really
made
thinking.
would have
sense.
been dumb to keep the Nordiques as they moved all the way to Colorado.
It's all relative. We're
It's
north
weird though,
of
because
some places.
even but you're talking about separating the franchises and not, I mean, whatever, the cities, and even a guy like Goo, when you think about it, in front of the show Goo, like, number retired in Quebec, and then I remember, like, and then you're going to Denver. What does that mean? Like, you're gonna put 16 in the stands, like up top, Goo, like, and people are
Yeah.
like, who's that? You know what I mean? Like, and again, I love Goo. He's a Hall of Famer. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like
Did they do
losing
that
Goo
back in the
because
day? Did they have Nordiques hanging up in the rafters?
no, no, they didn't. They did not.
I
They did
agree with
not.
that, for the record.
Yeah. I mean, there was
It just
Goo,
feels
there was like
performative.
Mark
Like they weren't
Tardif.
your city
Yeah,
stars. Like I don't
yeah,
know. Just it'd be like Oklahoma City having
yeah,
Gary Payton up in their rafters. Like he never played for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it just makes it for weird stuff. But again, you're hurting feelings for sure somewhere, but you just can't be perfect. It's impossible. You just can't.
With that in mind, the Avalanche, we've talked a lot about the history here. We're 30 years in. They released a logo to commemorate 30 years as a franchise. I don't know if we can put that up on the screen or not, but it's basically just the Avalanche logo with three X's for, uh, three X's means something else to certain individuals, which I know was the first thing that I thought of when I saw it. What is your guys' reaction to it? I guess it's better than 25. I think 20 was the best anniversary logo that they've had thus far. But I don't know. I don't know if we needed a new logo specifically for it. Where are you guys at on this 30-year anniversary logo, AJ?
I'm with you. I saw it and I thought, so they didn't run this by anybody else? Like an office full of people looked at this and said, "Yeah, this is gonna
Maybe they're
evoke
just really
thoughts of other
wholesome
things."
over there. They've got a bunch of folks who it went right over their head, and we're the bad
Yeah,
folks with our mind in the gutter here.
yeah, the online degenerates, or I saw plenty of people talking about Vin Diesel, with the Triple X movie
Good
that he
point.
made,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm looking back going, what?
Maybe
Why?
it's a reference to when Cale McCarr and Nathan McKinnon are on the ice together. You need a not safe for work warning because it's just that
That's
nasty.
We should just put the logo over them instead of a little black box when something's happening on screen. Because yeah, like you said, not safe for work. The 20 and 25 logos are bad. They're boring. I don't like either one of them. I think the 10 is cool. Um, but yeah, I think it's bad and dumb.
I think it's
But of
hard
course I
to
do.
incorporate the Avalanche A into things. Like they try and incorporate the little like the wave of snow,
Yeah,
into it, and it's just it works as a standalone logo. I just think it's a hard thing to then incorporate into other designs.
yeah. The swoosh with the puck, like the 20th one is probably the cleanest, just because it doesn't like do that. It's just like 20th anniversary. Here's the
I've
logo
got a
on its own.
McKinnon jersey, the alternates that they wear for the division games with that 20th patch on it, and I always kind of liked it. But yeah, I mean, none of them are inspiring. I don't think I would wear a hat or a shirt with any of these logos if we're being real. What about you,
Yeah, I
B?
mean, I'm a purist. Everyone knows that. And it's like, so whenever you're altering stuff, I don't like it. So that's me. You know what I mean? But I understand it's some sort of a time capsule when you think about it, right? 10 years, 20 years, 25, 30, so I get it. My favorite's probably the 10-year one, just because more familiar with that one, you know what I mean? And I never really paid attention to the other ones. Because like I said, all I look at is the logo itself, which is a pure A there that I love, that I think they nailed it in 95. So yeah, it is what it is. But I think it's cool. But I think it just kills me because it's like 30 years. Are you kidding me? It's been 30
Yeah,
years. You know what I mean? That's for me, it's like, unlike you guys, like in a sense, like my adult life, it's been part of those 30 years, so it's crazy. I'm talking about my adult life. Not that you guys aren't adults now, but I'm just a bit older than you guys. So it's kind of cool, the evolution, and that's why I'm saying I think there's a lot to be proud of. And uh, I'm not logo wise. I'm talking about franchise wise. Logos, like you said, they are what they are. Um, but yeah,
The logo means something
I'm
though in the
proud.
hockey world. I found that out the hard way. Don't
Yeah,
step on the logo in the locker room, even
yeah,
when the room is 10 feet big and there's 800 people in there and there's cameras this
yeah,
large and there's nowhere else to stand. But you better not step on that logo or you're gonna offend
yeah.
someone.
And that's
My
why I'm
apologies
saying
to
I'm
the
a
hockey
logo
bros, but it's
guy.
a little silly.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm a logo guy. For me, the Avalanche logo, it's the Avalanche logo that we know, And then whatever it is, those logos, it's just, it's good for merch, good for stuff like that, right? You know what I mean? But I'm not.
Do
Yeah,
we like the Avs
it was.
logo? Like, do you guys like the Avalanche? I know Eric, our aka D-Line, our lead designer, thinks it's a trash logo, does not like it. He hates every logo I like, and I like every logo he hates. But I've always liked the
Yeah,
Avalanche logo. I think it's
he
solid.
hates all the logos from the 90s, and I love all those logos. I think they're all super cool. I love the Avs logo. I don't ever want to change it. I think it's really cool. Leave it as is. Um, but it is clearly hard to incorporate into anniversary logos.
Yeah, but it's like for me the logo, like, I get it. I'm not here to defend or bash it or say it's the greatest. For me, it's like it's the definition of success. You know, what I mean, I see it as success. I see it as family success, um, and it's proud. Like, I see the logo. I'm proud. You know what I mean, and that's for me what the logo is. It could be the ugliest thing in the world. You know what I mean, and it could be the dumbest thing in the world, but it's been successful. You know what I mean? And then for me, that's what I associate it with. So I look at an Avs like logo, like AJ said, like for me, it's the greatest thing in the world. It is, and it's like it's so cool. You know what I mean? And there was some success since day one, and so I pay attention to that more than the specialty logos, so to speak. But man, 30 years, it's crazy. I still can't believe it. I've said that 6 times today on the show, but 30 years is amazing, and it feels like it was yesterday. I swear, like it feels like it was yesterday when I found out parents were moving to Denver, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." You know what I mean? Like quicker trip from LA, right? To go visit my parents instead of all the way to Quebec City. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then obviously I end up here the next summer. But yeah, it's quite you know what? Quite an accomplishment that they've had. And like I said, I think there's a lot of teams in the National Hockey League that would love to trade their 30-year success that the Avalanche have
Oh,
had.
100%.
Absolutely. They
And
traded
they'd love to have what's
most.
associated with their logo, what people think when they think of Avalanche hockey, which, to me, like they've been very successful in the 30 years that I've been on this planet. So it's a logo that I have a lot of positive association with. I make jokes about the CSU stuff, but I don't even know if I can adjust my camera here to show it. They don't wear these white helmets I have in the background with the green bone anymore, and they were really cool when they were released. Everybody's super excited about them. Well, then CSU lost about 1 million games in those helmets by about a margin of 3 million points, and so my positive association kind of quickly went out the door. And it's just funny, like how that works. Like you could wear the fuggliest, most awkward looking logo or jersey of all time, but if you kick everybody's ass in it, then it's mostly going to be positive associations with it. With that in mind, just having a little bit of fun here. We got a couple of minutes before we hit the road. Uh, on the logo talk, I just kind of wanted to talk about what are like the iconic logos in Colorado sports history. I think the Avalanche logo is certainly in that conversation. Here we go. We got the tiers. But to me, like the iconic logo, if we're doing Denver sports, it's got to be the Broncos throwback D, which was designed by the lovely Arletta Peck. She's an artist based on the Western Slope, who I was fortunate to meet one day while wearing that logo on a T-shirt. I was like in a little exhibit. It was kind of cool to hear her talk about all the history and whatnot. But like, I think if we were picking one logo to represent all of Colorado sports, it's got to be the Broncos throwback, right?
Yeah, easily.
It's an S tier, as the kids would say.
Yeah.
Are there any other logos that you would put in that same conversation?
Me personally, I love the Avs and Mammoth logos. They're the same. They're the same style. They've never changed them. I think they're both great. I also really love. I'm sorry, the CU logo. I think is so cool.
Oh, it's a great logo.
I
CU and CSU have
think the
awesome
black and
helmets.
gold is
Actually,
awesome.
across the good colors. They're very recognizable, black and gold. Like they don't have a lot of competition. It's not like red or blue where everybody
Yeah.
the country is wearing them. I feel the same way about CSU. It's a unique design, like with the horns. I know St. Louis or the LA now has the Ram logo as well, but it's not quite as prominent. CSU has an awesome throwback logo that they wear for Ag Day. It's like an old Aggie A when they break out the orange and green. I would put that in the S tier personally. Maybe less of a common pick amongst the fans who don't have an affiliation one way or the other as far as the college sides go. What about you, E? What's your favorite non-Avalanche logo in Colorado sports?
Eagles. No, I'm just kidding.
It's good.
Oh, might have some technical
Oh
difficulties here.
yeah, no, I think it's got to be the Broncos. Again, you hear that since we got here, 95, 96, Bronco country, right? You know, what I mean, I get it. It's such a worldwide, nationwide like sport. I think for me the Broncos has got to be there, and that's being non-biased because we are an Avalanche podcast. Um, but I think you have it bang on right there with that, But I do believe F should be on the secondary tier right there. You know what I mean? Along other things, but like the Nuggets or but that's what I would put on the secondary tier. You know what I mean? Again, you don't want to offend anybody, but I do believe that Broncos were there before. That's the respect. We've always had respect for Bronco country as Avalanche, even though we did get the first championship. When I say we, I wasn't part of that team, but his logo did. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, I think right now what what you have right now, 1 and 2 is probably the way it should be.
I
Obviously
think the
with
problem
one
with the
being a
Nuggets
number
is
2
they've
part.
had so many logos. Like it's changed
Yeah.
so many times, and they haven't really had a bad
Yeah.
logo in their history. But like if the Nuggets, I like the current one, which is kind of an homage to the old Miner days with the pickaxes and whatnot. But like the Skyline and Maxi the Miner are both more nationally like regarded and I think pop a lot more than the current Nuggets logo.
The rainbow skyline is like the Nuggets logo for me, although the Maxi the Miner rocks. So
I don't
those are
feel like
I
the
think the
Skyline
current
logo
logo
was super popular at the time though. Like I feel like that's one that's become retroactively cool. At least that's what Jeff Morton has told me a couple of times.
Yeah, I would believe that. I think their current logo is one of my least favorite logos in Denver sports. I would have it in D. I don't like it at all. I really don't like it.
What don't you like about it? Just kind of lacks character.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't feel. I don't know, like the. This is why I don't talk about these things because I absolutely don't like any of this. For me, I just don't think that there's not like there is now that they've won a championship. There's like an iconic Nuggets moment in their history. Finally, it took 50 years, but finally. And it's not like a round 1 series win with the Dikembe Mutombo on the floor holding the ball, like an actual like all-time great.
Well, they kind of cruised in that series against Miami. Like it wasn't much of a
yeah, totally. Honestly, they kind of cruised most of that postseason because that team kicked ass. It was such a fun team. I don't think that the logo. I don't have like a strong connection to it. I don't think it's very cool looking. The colors are so bland. Like we were talking about with like CU's black and gold, like this, the Nuggets colors are just kind of there. Like they don't jump out to me. It doesn't feel like anything special to me. So I'm not elucidating.
That's how I feel about the Rapids logo. I think the Rapids logo's got to be on the bottom tier. It's just there's nothing.
I feel that way about the Rapids. I feel that way about the Outlaws, and I feel that way about the new team.
The new one's all right.
I don't feel good about any of them.
Made specifically to design. It's like they made this like, what will women put on their bumper stickers and T-shirts around Denver? That was their whole thought process behind the new logo. It's fine. It's just you can tell like it was designed, and I'm sure all logos are, but like there's just no character to it. It just feels like the generic let's play on everybody's love for Denver and the state and the map and all that. It's like the
Yeah.
Colorado logo. It's just been overdone at this point. I love the Avs third jerseys. I think they're really sharp. The reason I wouldn't want them to be the full-time jerseys is because the Colorado logo at this point has been overplayed. Like, you know, you got 15 stores full of t-shirts and mugs and everything. It was cool. It was a thing. We embraced it. We can do other stuff now, I think.
I would agree. I love that they have like a specific time that they wear
Me
them.
too. Yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh, hey, what's the third jersey game this year? You know, like I love that they have, like, hey, against division teams at home, you know what you're gonna get. I think they look great. I've actually liked a lot of the Avs third jerseys over the years. Obviously, nothing beats the Nordiques reverse retro. We're talking
I
about
miss
like
the
a
maroon ones that
leave it.
said Colorado diagonally across them, like in the old Forsberg days. That was the first Avs jersey I ever picked out.
I hated them. I hated them. That my least favorite Avs jersey ever was that. I hated them.
It was better than when they did the blue version of it.
Yeah, the blueberries weren't good either. I liked those, but that was I like things that I think are like I have god awful fashion sense, and so if you can find something that is like tragically offensive to the eyes, I like it.
Ah, those are awesome, man. I love the maroons.
I think they look better like right there. Like in a concept. In reality, I thought they looked awful. I mean, those are just bad. And the pinstripes, I mean, we called them the uniprons forever because they look like aprons. Like just awful. Those were so awful.
Where you at on the Rockies logo? I like the OG one better than the. I mean, it looks good on the hat, the CR, but it's kind of a uninspired. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the change to just the CR isn't my favorite. I loved the original logo. I think it's just like a good solid. It's such a baseball logo. I love it. I think that it's a solid like B tier logo for me. Oh god, the Stadium Series jerseys for the Avs, both of them so bad.
Yeah, those were pretty rough.
Oh, the Air Force ones. God, they get worse every time I look at them.
That whole night was a disaster too for everybody trying to get in and out of the. I'm not even going to get into it. Getting into Air Force as somebody who works in the Mountain West, I can promise you, it's never a more fun experience than it was for hockey fans that night. It's always just a nightmare scenario. But 30 years, man, 30 years of unis, 30 years of logos. It was fun to kind of do some of this in the summer, little bit of a off-season banter, you know, classic podcast segment shit. But that's what you got to do in the dog days of August. Eric, do you have anything else you want to say? Just kind of put a bow on all of this and you know 30 years and what it means to you.
Yeah, for me, because like I said, it ruffles so many feathers. You know what I mean? Like obviously being my family at the forefront, my dad, meaning with that job that he had. You know what I mean? And it ruffles so many feathers. And to look back 30 years later and see the success story that it's had, it's pretty amazing. And the culture and the you know that was built from day one. And like I said, I use Charlotte, I use Jean, I use Francois, I use Matt, you know, Sokolowski, guys that were there, that came over, that really understood the assignment. They did, you know what I mean? They knew what they were trying to do. I'm not even saying Pierre, it's they, you know what I mean? It was all of them combined. And I think that's one thing my dad was really proud of is what the Avalanche have become. You know what I mean? And that was something that he took pride in. And it's funny because you were saying, AJ, like that rough year when you know they were losing to, was it Vegas, like 7-0 one game or whatever it was, or and then Montreal the next night. And I remember my dad in the living room was at my house and he was like devastated. And I was like, "What's wrong?" He was like, "Oh, I hate this. We worked too hard for this." And not pointing fingers. He was just hurt that, you know, they had that rough patch, you know what I mean? And he wanted that thing to turn around so bad, and they did. And they did. And Joe and his crew turned that around, and obviously wasn't there for the 2022, but You know what I mean? He would have been so proud. I think he was, I think, like I said, it's, what the Avalanche have become. I think that's his, besides his wife and kids, and, it's probably like, his greatest, accomplishment, so to speak. It's like what the logo means. And you just saw all the logos switch right there on that thing. And Avalanche logo basically has never changed. I mean, and that's always been there. And that's great. I think that I'm a purist. I like it that way. Live it that way. Don't change it. Don't change it.
Appreciate the classics. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Shout out to Sarah in the Toyota chat who is commenting for Rudo, who's driving, but he points out that the blueberry is the worst jersey in Colorado history.
So
the
ugly.
Rockies throw back the clock jerseys, which have now been a lot like the Nuggets skyline logo. People are trying to retroactively be like, no, we always love them. I'd say those Rockies ones were atrocious, but it's all fun. Shout out to everybody for rocking with us today. Rudo will be back on the show this week, which is awesome. We certainly miss him. Shout out to Tiff, our wonderful producer who makes all of this magic possible despite working with a group of knuckleheads like us. And much love to everybody in Avs Nation out there and for tuning in every single day and keeping this thing going, even in the dog days of August. We'll be back throughout the week. Lots to get into over the next couple of weeks. The season will be here before we know it. I know I can't wait. Much love, y'all. Have a great day. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.